Before I start, I would like to ask if there are any books you would like to recommend or any authors you think I should check out. This video might give you a sense of what I'm into, so if you could help out with any suggestions, I would really appreciate it. You see, I've always had trouble finding new novels to read. Sometimes I check out book reviews, but I can't always get an accurate sense of the writer's style from someone else's review. If a friend suggests a book, I trust my friends, so I usually check it out, but so few of my friends read these days. If they do read, as they call it, it's usually by listening to an audiobook while they're commuting. An audiobook, that is hardly the same as reading, and it doesn't really seem like a good way to get a sense of the written word, if you ask me. One thing I've done in the past is get an anthology of short stories by various authors. I like science fiction, fantasy, horror, so I used to grab things like this year's best time travel stories or this year's zombie collection. Short stories are easy to digest, and if one of them grabs my attention, I look into what else that author has written, so sometimes I get lucky, and the short story was developed into a full-length novel later on. That is how I found Dan Simmons. I think I read Remembering Siri in an anthology of short stories, which later developed into the Hyperion Cantos, epic science fiction spanning 4 novels well worth reading. Remembering Siri led me to Prayers to Broken Stones, a collection of 13 short stories that Dan Simmons wrote. I was definitely won over by his writing style and the variety of genres he worked in. Other short stories had also been fleshed out into novels, like Eyes I Dare Not Meet in Dreams being the seed for the novel The Hollow Man. Not the movie about an invisible guy with Kevin Bacon, but a novel with the same title, The Hollow Man. It is one of these expanded works born from a short story that I would like to talk about here. The novella Carrion Comfort, released in serialized form in Omni magazine during September and October in 1983, became the novel of the same name, the 636-page Carrion Comfort, published in 1989. It is amazing, thought-provoking, imaginative, terrifying, and should be adapted into some kind of cinematic form. I will say that again, Carrion Comfort would be an amazing film, or maybe it would be better as a series on a streaming service. Let me set up the characters and the basic concept. I will explain some of the plot, but I will try to avoid any major spoilers. In the world of the novel, some people have psychic powers called the ability. This power allows them to control other people from a distance, like puppets, and make them commit any kind of action. People with the ability have existed throughout history and caused or influenced world events in various ways. Some of these powerful people work together, while others stay separate and work in isolation. The story takes place in the 1980s. For reasons that will become clear as I introduce the major characters, there are flashbacks and recounting of past events during the events of the novel. So the full scope of the story actually covers decades. The characters can be split up into 3 groups. First, the outliers. Dr. Saul Lasky is a psychiatrist who survived the Holocaust in World War II, and during the events of the novel lives and works in the U.S. He does not have the ability, but he has encountered individuals who do have it several times in his life. The next character, Sheriff Bobby Joe Gentry, is investigating murders that wind up being related to people with the ability, but he also does not have the ability. Natalie Preston is a photographer whose father was killed, and she is out for revenge. She does not have the ability. So these 3 could be considered our heroes. And one more outlier, Tony Harrod is a powerful Hollywood producer and possesses the ability. He has the ability, but only a minor form of it. He can only control females due to certain traumas he experienced when he was a child. He wants to become a member of the Island Club and often provides them with services. Now, what is the Island Club, you might be asking? It is a cabal of powerful people, both in terms of business and influence, and powerful in the ability. Here are the members. C. Arnold Barrett is a billionaire industrialist. He is the most powerful user of the ability that he has ever met. Charles Colbin is a user of the ability, and he is a director in the FBI. Joseph Kepler, also a user of the ability, is a member of the FBI. Neiman Trask is an aide to a senior senator in the U.S. government and, you guessed it, a user of the ability. Finally, Reverend Jimmy Wayne Sutter is an influential televangelist and a user of the ability. Tony Harrod has aspirations of joining these powerful men, but his limitations, both in ambition and use of the ability, make this a challenge. Finally, we have the trio. This is not really a cabal, but a group of friends, frenemies, who also possess the ability. Melanie Fuller is a powerful user of the ability. Her life reaches back to at least the 1910s. Nina Drayton is Melanie's childhood friend and an equally powerful user of the ability. Willie Borden was an officer in the SS during World War II, but has changed his identity and now works as a Hollywood producer. He is also a very powerful user of the ability. The stage is set. One group of people is trying to increase their power and influence, intending to rule the world. Another group of people is more personally motivated and immoral, using the ability to make their own lives as comfortable and self-indulgent as possible. This second group might pose a threat to the first, or it might work as an ally of sorts. Tensions rise as plans are revealed and loyalties tested. The final group has no special abilities, or are very weak in the abilities in the case of Tony Harrod. The three human characters, Saul Lasky, Sheriff Gentry, and Natalie Preston, want answers. They uncover the existence of these special monstrous beings and intend to stop them somehow and deliver retribution. But how can they stand against such powerful adversaries in terms of finances and social influence and supernatural abilities? You can see why the story has to be set in the 1980s. Several characters have connections to World War II, events during which play important roles in the plot of the story as it unfolds. So setting it closer to our present day would make these characters over 100 years old. One aspect of the ability is that people with power can feed off the energy of those they kill to recover youth and vitality, prolonging their lives. But keeping the story in the 1980s still seems like the best choice. For example, Dr. Lasky was in World War II, so he would definitely not be getting younger or revitalized since he doesn't have the ability. The Cold War, Nazi fugitives, blossoming love, traumatic memories from the Holocaust, greed, lust, terror, and vengeance, even a nuclear submarine. Humans versus superhumans with the fate of an unaware world at stake. Part mystery, part history, all terror, with subtle notes of science fiction. You couldn't ask for more in a book, and what more could you ask for in a film? Or perhaps a streaming series with time to unpack the story and let it breathe? Another of Dan Simmons' works, The Terror, part historical speculation and part supernatural horror, was adapted into the first season of a streaming series of the same name. They did a pretty good job with the adaptation, but they changed some things and left out a lot, so the book is definitely worth reading if you enjoyed that series. So check out both versions of The Terror if you have a chance. As for Carrion Comfort, what do you think? Which would be better, a film or a series? Let me know in the comments section. along with any book recommendations you have, your thoughts on Carrion Comfort if you've read it, your thoughts on Dan Simmons if you know his work, or anything else you feel like sharing. I'd love to read it. Also, if you've made it this far, I would like you to consider subscribing to my channel and maybe leave a like if you got anything of value out of this video. Thank you for watching. See you next time.